Hello everybody, welcome to Kaizoku Dad channel, and today we are getting ready for the upcoming new One Piece set that's gonna come out in about 2 weeks or so. The new OP-04 set, and so to get ready, we're gonna look at one of the new leaders coming out in that set, the new Purple Yellow Crocodile. And this is one of those leaders that I think it's really cool because of the color combination, the purple and yellow. Um, and so Crocodile's being able to add all of those new cool cards coming out from both sets, I think is really awesome. And so that's why I decided to kind of make this deck. It's still a theory deck, right? So um, obviously it's not 100% optimized, mostly because we don't know what the meta will be just yet. But I think this deck is still a really fun deck because it has 12 big boss cards. Now, you might be thinking 12 is a lot, and yeah, it's a lot, but these boss cards are cards that help you recover life and develop board. So that's really cool. It ends up working somehow, some way. So I think it's really fun. I think you guys should try this deck. At least until the meta kind of reveals itself, what the meta will look like. But until then, you can have fun playing this deck, and maybe who knows? Maybe this deck won't do so bad once the meta kind of reveals itself. Um, so anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. I got some gameplay at the end, like always. So stay tuned. As always, we're going to start off with the deck list just because I like to show what cards are in the deck before we get into the deck profile. That gives you a better idea of what we're working with. So first, we're going to start off with those big bosses that I mentioned earlier. So we got two bosses from the new set. That's 8 cost Crocodile and that's 9 cost Yamato. And then we got some returning ones from the last set. So we got the 8 cost Katakuri and we got the 7 cost Big Mom. So we're already familiar, I think, with the 8 cost Katakuri and the 7 cost Big Mom, so I won't go over them. But I will go over the two new ones. We'll start off with Crocodile. So he's 8 cost and 9k attack, and he has two abilities, two of which are optional. You don't have to use them. Okay, so just keep that in mind, but they're still very good abilities. The first one, on play, you can -2 Dawn -2 Dawn, put them back into your Dawn deck, and if you do, you can put the top card of your deck into your life. And the cool thing about Crocodile is that that first effect, there is no limit to it, right? You can do it as many times as you want, obviously when you play it, and you don't need to have like a minimum of life in order to put life back in. So there are some cards, like Yamato, where it has a limit. We'll go over that in a bit. But Crocodile has a second effect, and that second effect is whenever your opponent attacks, you can minus a Dawn, and you can draw a card, and then you can discard. So with the new Baroque work cards, you'll notice that a lot of them have the ability of minusing a Dawn on your opponent's turn, and that's really key because that's what activates your leader's ability. And your leader's ability, the new Crocodile, what he does is that once per turn on your opponent's turn, not during your turn, on your opponent's turn, when you return a Dawn from your field to the Dawn deck through one of your effects, you can add one Dawn from your Dawn deck back as active. So when you subtract a Dawn on your opponent's turn, you're not really losing that Dawn. It just comes back. You're just it's like setting a Dawn going from rested to active. That's really all that you're doing. Which is why we're running cards like Arrow, which cost 1, and it's a counter. So all of these cards work really well with like counter cards that cost 1. But you do have to keep in mind it's only once per turn. So if you're subtracting, more than one Dawn on your opponent's turn to activate cards' effects, you'll be losing Dawn if you do it more than once. If you do it once, you're not really losing Dawn. You're just setting one Dawn as rested into active. So that's an important thing to notice. So let's go look at Yamato. So Yamato is a 9 cost, 9k attack. And her ability, she has an on-play ability which has two parts. The first part is that you KO something um, with the cost, something that cost with the same cost or less than the total amount of life between you and your opponent. So let's say, for example, you have two life left, and your opponent has 4 life left. So that's 6 life in total. So when you play Yamato, you can KO something that costs 6 or less. Um, so yeah, she has the KO effect, and her second effect is that if you have 1 life or less, then you can take a card from the top of your deck and put it into your life. So that's the limit, like I mentioned before. Like Yamato, if you want to gain life with Yamato, you need to have 1 life or less. Crocodile doesn't have that limit in terms of gaining life, but Yamato can pop something. And so a lot of this, from what you see, like there's a lot of like life manipulation in this deck. So that's why we have like Katakuri and Big Mom. Big Mom has the potential of either, giving you an extra life or taking or trashing a life from your opponent. In Katakuri, you can give yourself a life by putting something like something with a trigger and putting it back into your life. So you gain a life and you put like a wanted trigger. It could be like a blocker like Sanji. It can be something like Nico Robin, where she can draw you a card and gain Dawn, right? So you can gain Dawn, or you can gain life in the way of Katakuri, or you can just put a big threat on your opponent's side into the life, and that helps with Yamato, because if you have Yamato and Katakuri, then you're putting the card into life, and it increases what you can pop with Yamato next turn. So those work very well together, and again, it's life manipulation. It's life manipulation with all of them. So they work really well. And we have searchers. We have a pudding. Uh, Pudding has actually a lot of good targets in this deck. You can search out your big minions with Big Mom or Katakuri. You can search out your 2k counters with Strusen or Sanji. You can even search out the new 4 cost blocker with Sanji. So Pudding has a lot of good targets. The Baroque Works Searcher is Miss Valentine. She's a 2 cost, and she can search out any Baroque work. So that could be your new Crocodile, Nico Robin. It has the blocker and a 2k counter as well. And so we also running a Mr. 3 here, mostly because we need something like a body early on, so that costs 3. So really, you can do Mr. 3, or you can do something like a Pearl Sparrow as well. Any kind of 3 body, it works. 3 cost body. The reason I chose just Mr. 3 is because I just want to keep my searches consistent with Miss Valentine. If you put Paraspero, that's fine too. It'll just increase, your Pudding's searching ability, so it doesn't hurt it. Putting something else, like another 3 cost body that doesn't fall under either Baroque Works or Big Mom, is still fine. Just know that you're kind of hurting your chances more when you're using searchers like Pudding or Miss Valentine. But again, it's just 3 copies of just to have an early game body. And Mr. 3 is really cool because you can -1 Dawn on your opponent's turn, and then you can -1k attack from a character, not a leader, from a character. So if a character is attacking for 5,000, you can just -1 of your Dawn. Again, you don't lose a Dawn because it's Crocodile's leader's ability and it's your opponent's turn, and you're subtracting the attack from that character to 4,000. So you don't have to block or use a counter, which is cool. It's pretty annoying, right? Early on for your opponent. So I think it's a pretty okay card, and then in the late game it just turns into a 1k counter. So we have the arrows to be able to take advantage of Crocodile's ability of putting 1 Dawn active, and so this new yellow card with arrow, it's pretty much kind of like a point guard, except for you need to be at 2 life or less. So what it does, it -3,000 attack to something, either a character or a leader. So it's pretty good. we have your blockers. We have a couple of blockers here. We have Black Maria. So what she does is that on your opponent's turn, you can minus one Dawn, and it gains 1,000 attack. Sanji, just a normal blocker, but with a trigger, which is good. We have Uta, and what she does is that you can minus one Dawn on block, and then you can rest a 5 or lower. So she can essentially block two attacks of two like 5 or lower cards. So that's really cool. And so the total of blockers that we have that cost 4 is 6. And then we have, for our 5 cost, we also have 6. We got Miss Sunday, which is pretty essential, I think, in this deck. The only reason I'm not running 4 is because she doesn't have a counter and she can get pretty clunky, but she is pretty important if you draw her on curve. She's excellent. Then we got Mr. 4, which is a really good counter, blocker, or an attacker. It's up to you. So what it does is that it's 5 cost, 6,000 attack. You can minus one Dawn on your opponent's turn, and this thing gains 1,000 attack, and then it turns into a blocker. So it's not a blocker by itself. You need to reduce one Dawn to make him into a blocker. But then at that point, he becomes a 7k blocker for 5 costs. It's not bad. It's not bad. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. We got our 2k counters with Struzen and Mr. 13, Sanji, and that's pretty much the whole deck, right? We got searchers that work well with each other to bring out your big guys. We got your 2k counters, we have blockers, and then you have your big bosses. So it's a pretty straightforward deck, but with a lot of fun. The mulligan. So before getting into the mulligan, I do want to mention that this deck wants to go first, and that's simply because playing Miss All Sunday or Nico Robin on turn 5, it will go from turn 5 or 5 Dawn to 8 Dawn after playing All Sunday. So that's just a really strong, I guess, play that you can make. And that's kind of the advantages of going first. You also kind of deny an attack from your opponent because they have to wait on their second turn to be able to attack. So going first is I think it's the most optimal way to play this deck. But this deck is built in a way that you can go first or second. It doesn't really matter. But some of the cards that you definitely do want to see are Miss All Sunday, especially if you're going first. If you're going second, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, a Searcher, 1 or 2 is good, and one of your big guys. It could be Crocodile, it could be something else, it could be Big Mom, it could be any one of them. It just depends on your curve, right? If you're going first or second, and you have Crocodile, that's already good. But if you are going second, then Crocodile is fine, Katakuri is fine, Big Mom is okay too. Maybe not Yamato, just because she costs 9 and you have to wait until 10 Dawn to really play her. But any of the other ones is fine if you're going second. If you're going first, they're all fine, maybe except for Katakuri. No, even Katakuri is fine because if you play Miss All Sunday, you'll go from 5 to 8. So that's why going first is it's a pretty big advantage for you. So yeah, so these are the cards kind of you want to see. Your Searchers, All Sunday, a big guy, and maybe an event or two or counter. But generally speaking, you want to see at least one Searcher, one big guy, and a body that you can play on curve, either like a 4 cost blocker or a 5 cost body and a 3 cost body. So just something that you can play on curve and search something out. So searchers are usually meant to be able to search for whatever you need to complement your hand with. Early game is pretty simple. You just want to be able to play a body on curve and search stuff out. And so, like I mentioned at the mulligan part, depending on what your hand looks like, you're gonna be searching for something that you still need. So if you have, a bunch of 2Ks but not your final bosses, you're gonna use Pudding or Valentine to search out your big guys. If you already have big guys but not enough counters, so you're gonna use Valentine and Pudding to search for those counters. Really, you're just searching out stuff to make your hand better, essentially. So that's why it's really important to get these. in the early game. If you already have like a big guys and you have 2K bodies, but you need something to play on curve, either like um, on your second turn a 4 cost body, or on your second turn a 3 cost body, depending on going first or second, that's kind of what you do. Uh, and I think I mentioned this before, but Mr. 3, this could literally be any other 3 cost that you kind of want to put. I opted out for Mr. 3 just because it's a pretty annoying card for your opponent. I've seen a lot of people prioritize and use resources to get this off the field, and that's perfectly fine with me, you know. But if you want to add a Perospero, it's cool too. Don't my thought process with Perospero was that it doesn't have counter, even though you can search for it. It doesn't have counter, so it was kind of like mediocre, I guess. It's still a really good effect though. So if you want to run Perospero over Mr. Galeen or Mr. 3, go ahead and do it. You know, I think it's still I still think it's a good card. But yeah, that's pretty early game. Again, straightforward. Search for something to complement your hand. Put a body on board. You know, sometimes honestly, sometimes I do end up swinging with Sanji. Not really with Mr. 3. I kind of like I'd prefer to keep him up over like a Sanji. Um, it just depends on the matchup. Like especially against like Rebecca. One thing I do want to say is like with the new set coming out, like Rebecca is probably going to be one of the meta decks, and because it's a really strong deck, and they have a stage card, the Colosseum, where it lets you. It's not really rush it, but it's kind of rush where they can attack a character with a character that they put down on that same turn. So it's like um, they don't rush to your face, but they rush at your characters, and they can be active or rested. It doesn't really matter. So that's why if you're playing against Rebecca, even if you put down your blockers and you leave them active, it's no guarantee that Rebecca. It's not a guarantee that they'll survive, right? Because Rebecca can attack into them with their Luffy's or any other card. And remember, like if it's even if they're attacking for like the bare minimum of 5k, because they're the attacker, yours will be the one that gets KO'd. So you know they're kind of forcing you to use your counters. So that's kind of pretty annoying. That's why if you're up against a Rebecca, you know even if you're putting down your blockers, you have to kind of make the decision that sometimes it's better just to attack with the blockers because you might not get value from them. So that's just a little tip against Rebecca. But otherwise, I think it's still fine to just play the blockers and yeah, you can choose to use them or not, or attack with them. Keep in mind though, like this deck wins really by put like late game putting in a lot of pressure with your big guys, and then blocking stuff with your blockers. You know, just if they try to race you down. So being aggressive early on, you can do it if you want. It's not bad. But it's not necessarily the win condition. But again, it's not bad. If you can put in some extra pressure early on, it might help you play your big guys even safer. And if you play your big mom, chances are they'll probably give you more life than trashing a life. So that is something to keep in mind in the early game, just to see how aggressive you want to be. Sometimes I can play putting on turn 1 and I don't have a 3-cost body. Then I'll put 3 Dawn on putting and attack for 5 and attack for 5 with leader. That's also a good thing to do. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the early game. Mid game. So mid game is actually pretty fun, I think. Obviously, the star player or the star card of the mid game is Miss All Sunday, and like I mentioned before, you play this on curve when you're going first. You're going from 5 Dawn to 8 Dawn on your next turn, and that is really powerful. But really, I think this overall, she's just really good because she's a trigger. You play her, you draw a card and you gain a Dawn, essentially, and that's really cool. But you also have Mr. 4, which is actually a pretty good blocker as well. -1 Dawn and he gains +1000, so he's at 7. He's a 7k blocker, and well, honestly, you can even attack with this guy too. Like, because if they want to attack into him, they're gonna have to swing for what? if they swing for 8k, you can just use his ability and just drop one of your 2k counters, and boom, he's pretty easy to defend. And he's a big guy, um, pretty good body blocker, potential blocker. So he overall, I think Mr. Four is really good. This is the turn where you can play your Lin and force something out of your opponent's life or gain a life. And so mid game is where you start putting down bodies. You kind of have to make like the kind of have to read the state of the game, because at this point you're either kind of rushing, you're either like struggling to keep board or you have a board. You're either behind or you're either ahead. So if you're feeling that you are behind, playing more blockers in preparation for your turn, for your crocodile turn or your Yamato turn is perfectly fine. If you feel like you're ahead, then actually most of the bodies that you're going to play are going to be blockers anyways. So attacking with your blockers is perfectly fine too. But again, just read the state of the game of how far if you're ahead or if you're behind, and see the way you kind of want to be playing your big guys. I think Crocodile is one of those cards where you play whether you're ahead or behind anyways, because it has the potential of it's good when you're behind and when you're back and when you're ahead. So he's one of those good guys that can help you with that. Your Katakuri is one of those cards that it works really well if you're behind. It helps you gain board again. But also, if you can put something into your life and gain a trigger. So this deck is just really flexible in that regard. But the mid game is kind of where you want to see where you're at in the game, so you can start planning how you're going to use your big cards, and we're going to get into those big cards right now. Late game bosses. Everybody loves big bosses, and this deck runs 12. Okay, now imagine all big bosses behind a wall of blockers that you've developed in the early mid game, and now all of a sudden you have all of these bosses and they're being protected by your blockers. So I think the cool part of this deck is that even if you've taken damage and you've gone from 4 life down to 1 or 2, if you've developed your board with enough blockers, you have, a good amount of counters in your hand, these guys right here will still win you the game. These guys will bring you back to potentially all your life back. Crocodile will give you a life. Yamato will give you a life if you're at 1 life or less. Having 2 of these guys on the board and then playing a Lin, chances are your opponent's going to give you a life over them trashing one of theirs. Katakuri gives you board control, potentially giving you a life by putting something back into your life, or taking something big out of your opponent's board and putting it into their life. So that is the cool thing. So I think honestly, if you've taken, if you have a bunch of blockers in your hand and you're playing them, and your opponent is like aiming at your face, at your life, and it's okay to take some and get down to like 1 or 2. These guys will help you, come back essentially. There is one thing though in this upcoming set that you do need to be careful, and that's anything with blue, because they have a bunch of cards that will just either put these cards back into your hand or put them at the bottom. Anything with blue, you have to be careful. I think there's a blue card, Red Rock, cost 6, and what it does is you put a card from the field to the bottom of the deck. Any card. Doesn't matter if it's 10 cost, doesn't matter if it's 0 cost. Any card. So no big guys are essentially safe, and it's an event card. So that is something that you have to kind of keep in mind, because generally speaking, like everything from from set one to set three, there have been cards that like bounce stuff into the deck or into the hand or into the life or KO something, but it's never been something that's like something that costs like 9 or more. So generally speaking, whenever you play like a 10 cost or a 9 cost, they were safe, because there were cards like even like Katakuri, it says an 8 cost. You can target an 8 cost or less and put it into the life. Um, or Mihawk, it's a 7 cost or less and it puts them into the deck, I believe. Or Don Flamenco, which is 6 costs or less and it puts it back into your hand. Everything had like a limit. But now in this upcoming set with the new blue card, it can be a 10 cost, it could be a 0 cost. It doesn't matter. So when you're playing up against a blue, it's, putting down big. I'm not telling you not to put down your big guys. All I'm saying is that when you're putting down a big guy, take into consideration that it might get bounced. And if that's the situation, you have to choose which of these big guys would you prefer to get bounced into your deck or bounced into your hand. So, but again, that's only if you're playing against a blue leader. And so the upcoming blue leaders are going to be, there's a blue crocodile, there's a blue Don Flamingo, there's a new queen card that's black and, or yeah, no, blue and yellow. And then, I think there's other blue combinations that are not as popular, but still, if they're a blue leader, Rebecca, black and blue, blue leaders are going to have, I think they're going to be the most annoying thing to deal with. But keep in mind, if they're going to use the event card that bounces something into the deck, that costs 6. So they're only going to have 4 Dawn left to use. So I mean, putting like if you have multiple big guys and you play them back to back, this runs 12 bosses, and I think it's called Red Rock, the event card. It's only four copies of each, so they're not going to be able to keep up with all of the bosses. So it's perfectly fine, but I'm just saying it's something that you should keep in mind when playing against blue decks. Otherwise, having a bunch of blockers up and playing these guys and then gaining your life back with Crocodile and Yamato and Lin and Katakuri, it's just so much fun to see. And that's what we're going to get into right now. I'm going to show you some gameplay, show you how I play this deck, and feel free when you play the deck, make some adjustments. Maybe there's some cards that you don't like, maybe you think there's other potentially better cards. So this is the list here. I think the cards that are pretty flexible are obviously Mr. 3, maybe Arrow, because there is other 1 cost event cards that you can choose over Arrow. I just like Arrow because I don't know, like getting to 2 life is pretty easy, I feel, and it doesn't have much of a drawback. And if I get this off a trigger, I get an extra life. That's why I like it. Black Maria and Uta are really good blockers that go well with the Crocodile Leader's ability. But if you prefer a Black Maria over an Uta, feel free to run 4 copies of her, or 4 copies of Uta, or 4 copies of Sanji. Just keep in mind, the only reason I have these like this is because I want cards that I can play on, either going on even Dawn turns or odd Dawn turns. So that's why 5 and 5, 4 and 4. I have 6 copies of each, just because I want to make sure I have something to play on those turns. And they're blockers, and and they help you set up for a late game where you can just put on these guys, play the big boss minions, and have blockers, just to keep you alive. And that's pretty much the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the gameplay. Okay, first match against Don Flamingo. Maybe it's the film version. And we are going first. So we're actually keeping this. We got a pretty good hand here. We got 2 searchers. We got 1 big person and a 2k counter event. So yeah, sounds good. We're gonna search out. Okay, so we already have a 2k counter. And then so we're not gonna get this Sanji, but probably this Sanji. It's only a shame that we're putting this back in, but hopefully we can still find one next round. And then we're gonna put it like this. Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's the film version. This one's pretty aggressive. I don't have much experience playing against it, so hopefully it goes well. I think we're gonna attach one Dawn and attack. Yeah, we're gonna attach one Dawn and attack first. Okay, now we're gonna search. Okay, unfortunately we didn't get Miss Sunday, but we're gonna get Mr. 4 just so that we can have something to play next turn. Do it like this. Okay. So this is going to be our next turn, and then this is going to be our following turn. I don't think we mind taking some damage right now. Zoro. Okay. That's our attack. Takes it, and then we're gonna play our blocker. Okay, so depending on what he does, we might block, we might not. If we take 1 health, that's fine. It means we can use arrow. But I think this is kind of a free block, right? So but then he could crash into him. We'll see what he does. Block it. Have 1 up. Now, do we care about it? Because then we need two of these. Even if we do two 2Ks, I think 2 2Ks is fine. We're not gonna use the effect. There's no point. Now we're gonna do Big Moms. I think we want to attack here though, just to force him to use something. See what he does. Okay, so he uses a new card. Character gains 4,000, then set one of your characters as active. Okay, that's fine. Not a problem. And do 5 here. 2 cost. Trigger up to 1 of the leaders gets 2,000. Okay. Alright. We lost 2 cards. He used 2 cards, so we're fine. Okay, so he gave us a life. Cool. So far, so good. We're gonna follow up with another Big Mom. I mean, yeah, we can use this effect for a free block. Sure. I think we'll use Sanji here. Okay. This one is a 5 or less. Which is okay. So we're getting our big guys, which is good. I think we're gonna attack here first. Should we put a Dondo? So if we're probably gonna play Big Mom, which means we have like 2 Dawn to play with. I think I'd rather attack like this. Okay, so he blocks that. I'm gonna put 2 Dawn here and attack. Okay, well, he's using up all his cards, which I don't mind. Yeah, figures, and then just another Big Mom. Okay, so we're at 5 life now. Perfect. We still have 1 Katakuri we can play next turn, but we definitely want to protect our board as much as possible. But we'll see. I need to put more Dons on these guys and start going for 5s. But we got a bunch of cards out, which isn't bad. Yeah, so I'm still not too familiar with like the whole new set and how each leader plays, but we'll see. Okay, so he's going into that. I don't mind losing him, but I'm still going to use his effect, I think. Just because I want 1 down up, just in case. But I'm not going to defend him. That's going to require a lot of my hand. Okay. I will defend Big Mom though. So he has 5, he has 9. He might put all of it, and I guess that is okay. Not much of a choice though. Okay, that's fine. Alrighty then. We're just gonna have to work with what we have here. And we have to be careful with the 10 cost on Flamingo. So we're gonna do 5 here. Actually, we're just gonna do 7. We're just gonna attack with these 2. We're gonna leave these guys up. Just because we don't want them to be Don Flamingoed. So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see what they do. The next, and then I'm gonna attack for 7. Should I do 9? Because I don't think I'm... Yeah. We're just going to do 9. just leave one up. Because I need to take like 3 lives before I can even use one of these. Okay, he takes it. Yeah, I'm just gonna end it here. Because again, don't want him to do Don Flamingo. And I don't mind taking life, because I got a lot of life. So we're just gonna do it like this. I lose her pudding, okay. We will take that. That's a good card. Another one. And another one. Okay. We pop the blocker. And we attack. We're gonna attack with our leader. So yeah, I feel like we're gonna use Yamato. The only thing is it better to block Uta or one of the Zoros? Zoros are gonna hit hard, I think. What is the best play here? Yeah, I think the less blockers in the way, the better. And now, I'm gonna do one. And I think we can sacrifice. Do we sacrifice one? I don't have enough counters. So, I don't think so. So I think we're good here. I think next turn is when we try to end it. Because, yeah, he can attack with 2, 3. If he attacks with these, it's fine. We'll do 1. We'll keep that. I think we'll block the next one. No, we won't. It's okay. 2 lives is good. Okay. He has 9 left. What can he play with 9? I have no idea. But we're gonna block here. Another blocker. Okay. I'm gonna swing big with my leader, that's for sure. Yeah, this is so tricky. I'll probably swing with 2 max. 1 with the leader, 1 with a big guy. And then I'll put down maybe a blocker. Or maybe another big guy. No. So I want to swing 9 with leader. That's 4 Dawn, right? Yeah. Let's do that. 7, 8, 9. Let's see what he does. Okay. 10. And we're gonna sing one more 9 with Yamato. And then we're just gonna put a blocker and leave one up for arrow. Yeah, because there's no way to get through. They have 2 blockers. So we have to have enough to survive. And then with this, we can get one more up for another arrow. I think we can block. Yeah, so we're gonna use the effect and then just block. You can use Don Flamingo here for these 3, and I think that would be kind of worth it. Okay, he's not using it. We're gonna arrow here. Do we take this? Yeah, we'll take it. That's fine. Can't use Don Flamingo anymore. I don't know how many events he has. 7,000. Oh, this is 11. So if he puts everything onto the next one, that would also mean 12. Can we block 12? Can we block 11? So you got 4K. I don't think we can. That's 3. That's 4. So we're gonna have to let this one go. Might be game if he goes all in. Yeah, I don't think we have enough. Oops. I don't know why we did that, but that's it, yeah. Oof. Yeah, I'm still very unfamiliar with against this deck, so against Don Flamingo. But I think overall the problem there was that we let him develop a board. Maybe we played too much around Don Flamingo and he didn't have it. I'm not sure. But we'll see. On to the next one. Okay, this is going to be a hard matchup. It's going to be Rebecca. We're going second, so we're going first. We have 2 Miss Valentines. I think that is okay. I would have liked to have a pudding to search, but we'll keep this. It's okay. Could be worse. Key cards to watch out for are obviously the Colosseum, Luffy, and also... okay, we still got it. We're gonna search with her first. And get him just to get a body. I was hoping for Miss Sunday, but she'll probably be on this one. Yep. Okay. Unfortunate. Sometimes, you know, you just gotta flip a coin and see which one you use first, because you just never know. You just never know. We'll just attack. Okay. So then we're gonna probably play Mr. 4 next turn. And then after Mr. 4... okay. The good thing is that he hasn't gotten Colosseum yet. And what he discards really doesn't matter, because they're just gonna bring everything back with Luffy anyways. So, yeah. Okay. Next turn, we're gonna have to search for something big, because we don't have any of our bosses. And then put down like a blocker or something. Sabo, Bartholomew. 2Ks. I think this deck runs a lot of 2Ks just because it needs to. A lot of counter. Because the main guys are Kairos, Luffy. There's this 4-drop that reduces something by 4. That's pretty big, because then they can use like, what is it? Something worlds. Okay. Discarded another Sabo, and this one, and then he drew. This is the one I was talking about. Reduce the cost of up to 1 of your opponent's characters by 4, and then trash a Dressrosa. And they'd combo it with this. This can't be KO'd. They just have to rest. We're gonna get a free block here though. Okay, we got one of them. That's gonna be for next turn. I think we're gonna... so if we do 2, and we do 4, that's 6. I think we're gonna put some pressure onto Kairos here. Yeah, either make him use the leader, discard a card. Honestly, maybe attacking into him isn't that good. Okay. Since we can't KO it, I'll just go for leader. Yeah, maybe attacking into Kairos is just waste of resources. Just because they can just rest this and it's for free. That's what makes Rebecca pretty strong. we're gonna search. There he is. He's gonna go on top. And then we're just gonna put a blocker. Okay, so we got everything set up. You got a Yamato turn next turn or a Crocodile turn. So not too bad. He's taking his time here. I'm not sure. If he goes to life, I don't mind taking 2 lives. Yeah, I really don't mind. Okay, so I just did all of that to kill our Mr. 4. This is a problem, and I think we're gonna have to Yamato that for sure, because this can control the whole board. Yeah, and there's the problem card right there. So now they can just attack into me, into my character, so. Yeah, good thing we got 2 Yamatos. I'm gonna attack first, just see what he does. Okay, he blocks. Yeah, so we're just gonna Yamato and kill that, because that is the biggest threat right now. And that's it. Okay, now things are getting a bit more complicated now. I'm not sure if I want to. He's at 4, 3, so I can kill something that's 7 or 6. So I'm gonna have to Yamato the next one and just kill the blocker. Okay. Trying to do Yamato and see what he does with Kairos. Spending so much resources on him is just, I don't know, I don't think it's worth it. Just gonna go face then. Alright. Yep, that's how it is. This is what makes Rebecca really strong. Okay. We're gonna gonna block this right here. I don't know if he's gonna attack with the other clues on. If he does, he's a target for me. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to take that. Okay. How much 2Ks do I think he has? I have no idea. But I know I can't have two of them. So I might have to play a blocker and leave some Dawn up for this. So I need at least, I can use 5. That'd be 14. I need to use 3 cards from his hand. But honestly, he probably has so many. I know he has a Bartholomew. He used that. Okay. So this is tough. Yeah, Rebecca is really tough. So we're just gonna do 5. Got him. Okay. Now we put a blocker and leave one up. There it is, yeah. Okay, and kills that. It's very control deck for sure. Very, very much so. Can't have him attack me, so I'm just gonna do that. We're gonna KO that for sure with Yamato. Okay. And we're gonna gain a life too, so that's good. Now we attack. We're just gonna have to play as many big guys as we can and see how many he can KO. So that's probably the way to go. Okay, that's pretty much it. Still have hand advantage, and we're tight in life, but his board is pretty scary. Okay, yeah, we're definitely... We are definitely gonna have to cut a curry that. We can't really defend it either, so... Sad that we have to let it go. That's what makes Colosseum so good. The question is, do we want to... I don't think we want to. We want to stay at 2 lives right now. Yeah, this is gonna have to go back in. he used this, right? For double attack? Which is cool. Okay, and then we got Big Mom. Okay, so we're gonna use 8, so we're gonna leave 1 up. And we have 1 Dom left, so I'll probably use it for this. I think this is just too good. I think everything else doesn't work as well without this. Okay, he's reducing everything. Gotcha. Not sure. I think we do block, right? Or do we take 1? I think we block. Okay. So we can either Crocodile next turn or Big Mom. But he's got his whole board set up. It's probably not worth it, but maybe I should have attacked with these more. Yeah, maybe I should have attacked them more. Oh. Okay. Guess he didn't have any counters. So we won. Wow. I guess yeah. Did not expect that.